Sis, I finally found you. A deep, emotional voice came through the phone, one that Dai Xingfen had never heard before. Her first reaction was, when did I ever have a younger brother? Scam alert, maybe? She was just about to hang up when the man on the other end rushed to explain, Sis, I'm He Rongfeng, the boy you took in 20 years ago. I've been searching for you ever since, and today, I finally found you. It took Dai Xingfen a few seconds to dig through the fog of memory. She did recall taking in 3 penniless young beggars once, but that was 2 decades ago. Why was this person suddenly reaching out now? Before she could ask, the man quickly added, Sis, I don't want anything. I just wanted to find you, to thank you for your kindness back then. He Rongfeng then started to share the story of how he'd spent the last 20 years looking for her. As he spoke, Dai Xingfen quietly wiped away tears, overwhelmed with emotion. She had never imagined that her simple act of kindness all those years ago would shape the life of a man who'd go on to become a wildly successful businessman, and even more incredibly, that he'd carry that memory with him for 2 whole decades. He Rongfeng, now the chairman of Jiuli Phone Group in Shenyang, China, had no idea his attempt to repay an old debt of gratitude would draw so much public attention. But for him, the joy of finally reuniting with the woman who once helped him was worth it all. Back in 1993, at just 17, He Rongfeng was forced to drop out of school after his father's business went under. His mother, desperate and humiliated, managed to borrow $14 from relatives and neighbors. With that, He Rongfeng left his home in Chongqing with 2 boys from the same village, hoping to find work and help pay off the family's mountain of debt. Someone had told them that Zhejiang province was the place to make money, so they headed straight to Hangzhou. The world outside was big and full of promise, but also cold and confusing. The trio searched everywhere for work but came up empty, burning through the little money they had until they were flat broke. With no other choice, they decided to keep heading south, hoping for a miracle. On the road, when they were too tired to walk, they'd nap in piles of straw next to farmhouses. If someone offered them a bowl of rice, it felt like a feast. We were full-on beggars back then, He Rongfeng said, never shying away from his past. Looking back now, it was those days of hunger and wandering that left such a lasting impression, and made Dai Xingfen's kindness unforgettable. 13 days after leaving home, they arrived in Yangfu village in Xianju County. Exhausted, hungry, and with no clear future ahead, the youngest and weakest, He Rongfeng, came down with a high fever. That's when 24-year-old Dai Xingfen happened to pass by. They followed her silently, hoping the kind-looking young woman might offer them something, anything. A cup of hot water, maybe. A fever-reducing pill. We didn't expect much, he said. We hadn't eaten in 3 days. Just a bite of food would have been enough. They'd met good people along the way, sure, but most folks still looked down on 3 filthy street kids. In their eyes, Dai Xingfen was their last shot. After hearing their story, she didn't hesitate. She brought all 3 boys home, cooked them a full meal, boiled water for them to soak their feet, and even treated the blisters on He Rongfeng's torn-up feet. 20 years later, in an interview, Dai Xingfen remembered it simply. She saw how desperate they looked and figured, life's hard enough, if I can help, I will. It was already dark when she'd finished helping them settle in, but instead of going to bed, she went back out to help them find work. She was a bookkeeper at a local button factory and used all her connections to land one spot for the boys. But they were determined to stick together. If one got a job, all 3 had to get a job. That was the rule. The next day, Dai Xingfen handed them each 10 yuan, about $1.40, and some brown sugar bread for the road. She saw them off as they boarded a bus to the nearby city of Huangyan to try their luck there. To put that in perspective, Dai Xingfen's monthly salary at the time was about $10. She had just handed over half a month's income to 3 complete strangers. Her name is Dai Xingfen, He Rongfeng would go on to say. She lived in Yangfu village, Xianju County, Zhejiang province. And just like that green sweater she wore that day, her name and her kindness became etched in his heart forever. After parting ways with Dai Xingfen, He Rongfeng eventually made his way to Shenyang. Through years of grit and hard work, he not only paid off his family's debts but also settled down, got married, and had children. On the surface, life was finally stable, but that peace didn't quiet the promise he'd made in his heart. From the moment Sister Dai let us into her home, I swore to myself I'd repay her kindness one day, He Rongfeng said. Once he got to Shenyang, he wrote her a letter, wanting to let her know he'd found work and to thank her for taking them in. But after mailing it to the name and address he remembered, nothing ever came back. Over time, he sent several more letters. Some were returned with no such person stamped on them, others just disappeared into the void. Years later, He Rongfeng finally discovered the reason: he'd misspelled her name. Instead of Dai Xingfen, he'd written Dai Xingfen, a single wrong character that pushed his thank you 2 decades down the road. Even though the trail had gone cold, He Rongfeng never let go of the hope that he'd one day find her and say thank you in person. With his talent in painting furniture and his generous, loyal nature, he slowly built a reputation in the furniture industry. He earned the respect of both factory owners and fellow workers. With the money he saved from contracting paint jobs, he launched his own business, naming it Lifeng Furniture, combining a character from his name and one from his wife's. Meanwhile, Dai Xingfen, unaware of any of this, was running a small noodle shop over 1,200 miles away in Linhai County, Zhejiang Province. Her life was modest but content. She never imagined that one simple act of kindness would live so vividly in someone's heart for 20 years. As He Rongfeng's business grew, he went on to open 2 more furniture factories and a paint factory. In 2003, he founded Jiuli Lifeng Group in Shenyang. Even as his career soared, he never stopped searching for his old benefactor. What started as quiet inquiries during odd jobs turned into a full-on mission. He and his wife searched together. They asked friends for help. He reached out to people from his hometown, material suppliers, product distributors, anyone who might know someone who might know her. Finally, in 2013, He Rongfeng met someone from Xianju County in Zhejiang. Through that person, and with the help of the village chief of Yangfu, he was able to connect with a relative of Dai Xingfen, who had since moved to Linhai. When he finally called her and said, "Sis, I'm the youngest of the 3 little beggars you helped 20 years ago," this tough guy from Chongqing couldn't hold it in. He broke down in tears. He and his wife rushed to Linhai. To show his gratitude, he brought gifts and cash, more than once. The biggest was a check for 1 million yuan, about $140,000. But Dai Xingfen didn't hesitate for a second, she flat out refused. "You remembering me after all these years, thinking of me, that already moves me beyond words," she said. "All I did back then was give you 10 yuan. How could I accept something so big in return? I'll take your thanks, but I can't take this money." No matter how much he tried to insist, she held firm. But the 2 of them, after this long overdue reunion, grew close like true siblings. Since then, they've stayed in touch, visiting on holidays or calling just to check in. Even He Rongfeng's 3 kids often tag along when he goes to see Auntie Dai. To Dai Xingfen, accepting that kind of money just didn't sit right. Her mother had raised her to believe that helping others was just the right thing to do. In fact, her own mother had once taken in beggars too. So for Dai, lending a hand was second nature, it was never about getting anything in return. Knowing that someone she helped still remembered her after so long, that was reward enough. Once He Rongfeng truly understood what was in her heart, he stopped trying to repay her with gifts. Instead, he turned his attention outward, to others who needed help. He began doing charity work and giving back to the community, determined to pay it forward. That kindness he once received from a stranger? He wanted to pass it on. Their story touched countless people and was even adapted into a public interest film titled A Lifetime of Siblings.